This is a story mainly for entertainment purposes only. As you can see, there is a man that is led down in full camouflage with a scope rifle pointing out towards the woodline. This is Operation DOVETAIL to research the UFOs and technologies of Hitler. Here we begin. 'Twas a late August, and the tree line was dense. Me and my 3 other friends had just got here on an expedition, even allegedly sent by the king. The year was 1942. Naming not which king I shall name, but this is a confidential story that may not have happened. We were privately briefed, formally, that Hitler had been using the law of attraction and the repetitive phrases to indoctrinate his Nazi superior race since the antiquities, even as far back as they were regaling them with the fact that their ancestors, the barbarians, had defeated the Romans in ancient war. If anyone knows the ancient battle, when the Romans went into Germany, into the many hundreds of years ago, and they were slaughtered, ambushed, and they reported seeing in them woods people covered in animal skins attacking them like large beasts on 2 legs with the faces of ancient barbarian monkeys and faces of almost human-like faces and faces of deer and other such strange creatures that were allegedly reported to have attacked the Roman Empire in the vast German forests. Subsequently, we are not allowed to give our names or anything else, or when this was first written down and recorded, we are not allowed to declassify whether this actually happened or not. But subsequently, we were a small operation sent into the woods on foot, specially trained at high level elite, trained on the Falkland Islands and in Antarctica and at base camp in Himalayas at altitude, trained especially for this mission, should it ever arise. For Winston Churchill himself had foreseen the rantings of Adolf Hitler and the dangers which he threatened to oppose the world with. So this was before World War II. So now, here in 1942, a small troop of special elite men, of which you are of one, were made as undercover operatives to seek out hidden weaponry in the forests of Bavaria. We had crossed into, we had originally gone the month prior into Norway, and then by boat, black seafaring boat with full black scuba diving equipment, we ventured towards the northern German coast. Entering into the beaches of northern Germany would not be easy, so we would wait for the right opportunity at night. We had with us waterproof satchels and backpacks, and we had been trained in survival for the outdoors and wilderness, and we were fluent in various languages and psychic abilities. We trained in the woods first and prepared our plans in Norway, and we noticed the Aurora Borealis. Alice? Who was she? She was very good. I had a child with her. Anyway, my memory is not very good, but I do recall the past and the good times that we shared together in colour very, very vividly. And so we had to make our way across the very cold sea to Germany, to northern Germany, but knowing that every German we considered to be a Nazi. Even the civilian public, every German woman, child, and man could definitely have our goods for garters. In Norway, we trained first by hunting deer and cleaning the tripe and eating the tripe, the innards of the deer, which used to, after about 10 minutes of eating the cleaned innards, tripe of the deer, or sheep, in this case deer, I had just caught one, as we practiced laying traps and avoiding detection. The deer innards, the tripe offal, it would increase the circulation, in my opinion anyway, in the knees and the brain, and in the feet and in the joints, warming up the temples and making the head vibrate at the correct frequency, in my opinion. But you can go and suck on some eggs. You see, the sea between Germany and Norway, if I can so succinctly put it, was laden with mines, large industrial mines, and on the beaches, on the seafronts of northern Germany, there were large apex, long-distance guns, cannons, mounted into castles and into every seaside town. Not only that, but the waters, however cold, between Norway and Germany were awash with black, thick-vesseled submarines. And the sky at night, you could see from Norway the Aurora Borealis to the north, and to the south you could see northern Germany, also lit up with the sounds of fighter pilots and large troops. We always did reconnaissance of an area. We would never just rush in unprepared. Our submarine suits and costumes had been specially designed in the shape of a seal, so that we could be unrecognizable from seals in the sea. Sorry, that was our wetsuits. We could have took a fishing boat, a rigging boat, and made our way to Germany, but we would have been stopped. Unlike the sea wolves, howbeit well a day. And as I do faintly recall, vividly, in fact, that I cannot recall what I did today, or yesterday, or what I even... Sometimes I can't recall my own name when I'm clean-shaving my stubble in front of an old-fashioned mirror. But I do recall vividly the green Aurora Borealis and the marching of Nazi troops in formation. Going forward, I will briefly describe that when we were in Germany, we got to a town I will name later, and we were all dressed. We had all gone into a old shop and taken some German traditional clothing and adorned it upon our bodies, upon our brisk bodies. We had warmed ourselves up with tea and flasks and a type of salted dried fish which is common in Germany, which we ate, taking with us supplies of the deer, offal and tripe to keep our vibration exquisite and our morale high, free from contempt. And I do recall I was the poorest speaking when it came to the German language. My three other chums, pals, they were more fluent in German than I, but two were exquisitely fluent in our squadron, or battalion, or whatever you like to call it nowadays. And I do recall being in that shop and trying on the clothes and buying them, and having this German shopkeeper in traditional green clothing, like some kind of bell singer, like some kind of yodeler from the, as you could assume, as you could picture. And he seemed to be talking to me. In German, I didn't understand what he was saying, and he was twitching and twirling his blonde mustache, and he was a chubby man in a checkered green jumper. And this was his clothing shop in this small town in northern Germany. And luckily, my friends replied, and in this case, they spoke on my behalf. But believe me, when I looked out the window of that ye old shop, through its wooden frame and thin glass pane, I could hear the beating of drums and the marching of things. To be in Germany, to actually be there in 1942, on the wireless, there was just constant bombardment of praising Hitler, repetitively just supporting everyone. I felt absolutely in the thick of it. Then we heard the bell go, as there was a bell on, as the shop door would open in Germany. A bell rang, the top of the door hitting the bell or something. And I turned around to see two Nazi officers in full regalia uniform, entering and speaking fluently. One I never will forget, thick, golden, straight waxed hair under his cap, and he was speaking, and I was just pretending like I was browsing clothing in the clothing department. And in these days, there was no big franchise chains or anything. There was just small local shops, and we certainly were not local. And I just hid myself behind some clothes, and I looked at them from the corner of my eyes, not directly, but neither was I so foolish to walk away into the changing rooms that they could shout me and stop me. My other comrades, my other friends, the three of us were also in this clothing shop, but now we were wearing traditional civilian, German civilian clothing, and at least two of my friends spoke fluent, excellent German. And we, being undercover, we were trained to keep a poker face, and we were trained to breathe from our stomachs, breathe in through the nostrils, so the stomach expands, hold it, breathe out from the nostrils, so the stomach contracts. So this is supposed to calm down the sympathetic nervous system, calm you down, take you out of a fight and flight response. We had to act calm, natural, and it was not like you see in the movies. And then my eyes widened as I saw a German vehicle pull up outside the clothing shop. It was an army truck and with a big SWAT sticker on it and a bunch of machine guns and in the shop there was an old record player playing some Bavarian tunes. Not like you see nowadays with all this hipping and hopping and rocking. No, it was traditional German music and classical music. And of course the classical music calms me down. In this particular clothing shop, the German owner of the shop, he had a big parrot cage with two parakeets in the parrot cage, a big parrot cage in his shop. I was just looking with one eye as I was slightly bending forward, pretending to browse this rack of clothes, and I watched a good battalion of Nazis walk right past the shop in formation, in rows and columns, walking, marching with straight shins. You could really hear the footsteps, the boots on the streets and on the roads as they march forwards, just going forwards like a well-oiled machine. All of them absolutely stone-faced, brainwashed. And then came upon the wireless Hitler's voice, and at once the two parakeets in the cage stood to attention and almost froze into position when they heard Adolf Hitler's voice on the wireless, yapping away. What? I remember his parrots must have been Nazi parrots or something, for them to stop playing around, stop eating their seeds, and just to go stand in position on their perches in the shop. They had obviously been listening to Hitler and his rantings and ravings for many, many years, even before the war. All of my squadron, including myself, 4 of us in total, were in this shop with the shopkeeper himself, a big jolly German himself with a blonde moustache and a blonde comb over, his 2 parakeets. They had trained up very, very well, and these 2 German officers were in this clothes shop with me. Luckily, 2 of my colleagues, the more fluent ones on the mission with me, they started a conversation with the German officers, upon which I did not understand half of what they were saying, But then my spine erect and straightened when one of the German officers looked directly at me, squared up to me, and forced his face right into my space and looked me dead in the eyes, cold. I could feel his breath upon me, and I did not blink, as we were trained not to blink, but he neither blinked as well. And when he saw he had no reaction from me, he smiled and put his hand on my shoulder. As I watched it on my shoulder, then I looked back at him, unflinching, unblinking. Felt a shiver down my spine, but I didn't show it. My heart would have been beating if we had not been formally trained in how to lower our own heart rates. He said something to me, and one of the phrases that I had abundantly memorized and practiced in German was, "So, shall we play poker?" Oddly enough, at first he said nothing, as he pressed his unflinching face right up against mine. He retracted himself slightly from my presence, and then he smiled, which put me at ease. And then he said, "Ah, poker, yes," and if I would like to join him. So, actually, from there, he kind of befriended me, and he took me with him to play poker. There I was, playing poker in some back room of a house, a wooden, traditional German wooden house, with these generals, Nazi generals. Now, I couldn't tell them that I was an undercover British spy, but I smiled and laughed. And luckily, one of my friends, who was also a good poker player, who could speak fluent German, part of my battalion, my squad, he also interjected and offered to play poker for some high stakes, which upon I do recall seeing the very crooked teeth of that German Nazi sergeant, and he took us and he led us forwards, guiding us forwards with his hand behind upon the small of my back. And he took us outside, and he took us into another building nearby, a big wooden house, whereupon was a bunch of even more Nazis sat down, playing poker. Could you believe it? Me and my pal, who spoke better German than me, who was on the mission with me undercover, of course. He smiled a little bit, and he spoke in fluent German. I smiled, and I acted calm and at ease. I acted very relaxed, and I went to pull a wooden chair out for myself to sit down. One of the higher-ranking Nazis that I could see from his dress code and the way the people spoke to him, he stood up and clicked his fingers, and the guard in the corner with a round hat on, metal hat, put his machine gun down and came and poured some whiskey for us. That high-ranking Nazi that was playing poker, he ordered that our wooden chairs, be pulled out for me and my friend. We had given ourselves German names. We weren't going to give our real English names, now would we? And all was quaint and cozy. The cards were shuffled, and we all stood up, and then when the main Nazi was a slim figure, When he ordered us to sit and play, we all sat and played. One of the officer or sergeant, whoever he was, Nazi, who had been in the clothes shop with us and had offered us to play poker with him, who had made us play poker with him, he took the deck of cards and began to shuffle it in an inextricable, surprising, mesmerizing way. He shuffled them cards like he was a professional. The cards just went from his right hand into his left into his right, as if by magic. And I had to see this with my own eyes. For if you don't believe in magic, you need to see it. Though I wouldn't. So, seeing this, I squeezed myself on my knee under the table, the wooden polished table. I could see that in the corner there was a soldier, Nazi soldier, with a machine gun standing present. We were really in the thick of it, but luckily I had been given decent cards. He was throwing a card out to each one of us, and then another card, and I held my cards close to my chest. I actually had quite a good hand. Very good. But I didn't want to win. And my friend, sillily enough, tried to win. Until which, when he did win a hand, the reaction of the German officer was to say, "Swine!" And he banged on the table, and he banged for another whiskey. And my friend, I could see the fear in my friend's eyes. Because we were always thinking now and then, do they suspect us to be British spies? That was the question that so often ran through our minds. Naturally, if you've ever been in a poker game, tournament, if you've been beat, you want to play again to prove that you can win and to win the money. And so they said in German, "Another game," and they raised the stakes. And I had no fear of loss. We were also trained to have zero fear of loss and to keep a good attitude. So I squeezed my knees under the table, almost squeezing the officer's knee beside me, for I had to relax my body. I had to force it to relax. And I had to force myself to breathe deep. I just focused on my breathing. I had to appear natural and at home, for we were pretending to be German civilians. And we were developing quite a good rapport with these high-ranking Nazi officers, which we were there to do. Well, as the day became the night, we were all getting quite comfortable with each other. And the whiskey was flowing, and they, and even I, had been shaking our small, thick glasses of whiskey and spilling them in camaraderie, if that's not the correct word to use, but spilling them in fake camaraderie, which almost felt natural. I almost felt like one of them. But luckily, our mission was strictly not to kill. We were here just to gather information and reported back to British intelligence. We were not here, the four of us, to kill. Where my other two men were at that time, they must have been renting somewhere or taking some accommodation. Anyway, me and my man, we continued to play poker. And maybe this was the whiskey talking. But at this moment in time, I had to remind myself that these were ruthless, degenerate, Aryan killers. I had to remind myself who I'm actually sat around this table with. Because you did become very, very relaxed. Until something strange happened. After playing so many games, and having forgot all about the world and all about the things that I used to want and desire, almost being void of any future or past or desire, and totally I was focusing on the eyes and glasses and Nazi uniforms of the real Nazis sat around me, and such high-ranking officers, and one superior officer, the thin one, upon which he whistled, and he said some words in German, and he sent for, distinctly I remember him saying, Helga. A few moments later, a woman walked in, with a short skirt on, thick, illustrious legs, of a colour of skin which was like a natural beige, like an opaque but not very white skin, and her bosom chest was wide and full, her neck slender, her jawline distinct, her hair in locks, thick locks that went down the back of her neck, and the smell of her perfume was like natural, like something I had a deja vu moment right then, as if I knew her. And when she looked upon me for the first time, she also stopped and put her 2 feet together in her high heels as she stood to attention. And she looked at me from the corner of her eyes, and she went right beside me and faced away from me, just a few feet away from me, and faced away from me, and she deliberately bent over to pick up. I wasn't focusing on what she was picking up, but I think she was doing this just to me. I said something like, "Who is this handmaid come to interrupt?" And she asked about me. And then she was sent out the room to prepare for something for us. And I had almost fallen head over heels with her, though I might have done, had I not reminded myself in my mind that indeed this woman is a vicious, emotionless creature of Hitler's doing. And that's why I did not give my heart, and I'm so glad to this day that I did not give my heart, not to any such woman. Oh, but I think she had taken to me and taken me to heart straight away. It was like a natural attraction, like two magnets vibrating subtly, from brain to brain. And she knew it and I knew it, but we didn't say anything in front of the sergeants and officers, nor did they suspect our real intentions. Anyway, we got up, and they led us as friends, the officers and the Nazis, and the main Nazi, the Finn one. He was given his coat, which a soldier opened up his coat and helped him put it on. And we were taken somewhere else. And we were told, not asked, but we were told, now we must come to the after party, where we would see a spectacle of a great show. By this time, we had gotten used to the presence and the company and laughing and joking with the real McCoy, the real top-ranking Nazis and sergeants. We knew if we were in their good books, we would have an easy life, an easy journey to where we needed to go. But before we could go there, we were taken outside and we were driven with escorts and security to a big place with a wide estate in the middle of the town, a big type of beautiful building, but who knows? Place, I didn't know what was inside there. Maybe I was thinking they're onto me, and they've just been egging me on all this time. We didn't hear any noise coming from this place. It was quiet, too quiet. Our vehicle pulled up. We got out. The doors opened for us, and we went into this strange, quiet, big building. The exterior was wood, and the doors were double doors, and they opened, and inside was a red carpet. We stood on it, and the senior Nazi, the main general, went in first, with the sergeants thereafter, and us as well, and some soldiers after. And then a soldier took off the main Finn Nazi's overcoat, and hung it up. And then we were taken through another door, where upon my relief, I saw a stage and a beautiful dancing girl, and I felt like I was home. Feeling was relief. Oh. I had feared secretly that it may have been a trap, it may have been a place to interrogate us, but no. It was a big stage and many people there, all of them Germans, a mixture of civilians and sergeants, and even there I saw, if I do recall, some SS. But knowing that I had now built some friendships with high-ranking Nazis, leaders, generals, sergeants, I felt more secure. And I could actually put my feet up and watch the show. It was a beautiful dancing girls, all dancing with their legs high and wide, very high, kicking up and putting on many shows. And this was a very good night. I now pause here in the entertainment club in the middle of the town, and I will further record part 2 later. Thank you for listening. and you must simply click the like button if you have already, and I will divulge yet more of what happened to me in Germany, to me and my squadron, in yet a part 2 to this audio I shall be doing subsequently.